Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel. This is Business Connections Live with Steve Hyland.
Hello there, very good afternoon. Hello and welcome to Business Connections Live, the programme for entrepreneurs, SMEs and also business owners. Now, on today's show, we are demystifying the communications function and looking at the importance of staff engagement. And my guest on today's show is Justin Rui, Senior VP, that's a big title, of Communications at Luvata. Lovely to have you with us today, Justin.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Pleasure to be here.
This is an area, Justin, that's always absolutely fascinated me. The whole world of internal comms. There are a lot of people out there that are pretenders to the crown, perhaps, who think they know what they're doing. There are a lot of people out there that truly do know what they're doing. Let me ask you, first of all, before we find out a bit about you, what makes a great internal comms person?
I think having an empathy for other human beings and the way, not just the way they're behaving, the way they're thinking, the way they're feeling, and realising that that changes all the time. You know, there's models that I would have used 15 years ago and models I would use 10 years ago that are completely different to the way I do things now. So one, an empathy and feeling for other people and a fascination with other people as well.
Do you think the technology has changed the way we now do the way we communicate with our workforce? Has that changed it? Or are we still fundamentally using the same principles but delivering them in a different way?
I think the skills that make a communicator probably haven't changed very much. I think the channels that we use to reach people and to connect with people, yeah, they've changed. But I'm going to quote Alistair Campbell. He was at a speech 5 years ago. He said, if you think the channels have changed a lot in the last 4 years, the audience have changed 10 times more. And I believe that what people enjoy at home, when they go home and they have social media and they can beam videos and what have you to all their friends and family, sets the expectation for what they're going to be feeling at work. And the more work lags behind, the more left out they feel.
I suppose that's the thing that we've got to remember, and I think all people that deal with internal comms, we are bombarded by be it social media, broadcast media, we are bombarded by it all the time. And I suppose what we've got to do, we've got to bring ourselves up to the level of what everybody now expects.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to be striving to be nearly broadcast quality. You've got to be striving to be intelligent in what you write. You've got to be striving to be intelligent in the way you use social media, because if you don't, people all around you will be.
Absolutely. And I think the power of all the social media channels, no matter which one you choose, is they put an incredibly powerful spotlight on who you are. And I'll pick up on the word you used, broadcasting. And there are still people who have that mentality today. They say, communication, how are we going to get our message out there? How are we going to broadcast the thing that we have to say? But I don't think we're in a world any longer where you can just broadcast something in a clever way, put in a picture of a kitten on a roller skate on Facebook or whatever, and have people think the way you think. That just doesn't work anymore. The message that will come across for your company is very much based on your integrity, and in social media you don't transmit out and talk to people. You bring people to a table and engage them on a topic.
So would you say then, not broadcasting, the term is used a lot in broadcast industry, but narrowcasting? So you're getting right to the point. So what you're doing is specific point. I suppose what we're doing here is a narrowcast. We are not broadcasting. Not everybody wants to find out about how to communicate in business or about business issues. So what we're doing is that we are defining our audience, and our audience are business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. So we are narrowcasting to that I love all these words. It's that vertical niche market that is businesses. I mean, if you're in that vertical niche market, congratulations and welcome to the fun of it. Listen, before we find out more and we really get to the real nitty gritty of it, Justin Roux, who are you? And also the company you work for as well, Luvata. Tell us a little bit about them and the issues and the problems perhaps that you had with them, and how you've been with them a number of years now.
10 years.
And how you have grown a successful internal marketing regime, how you've grown campaigns, how you've informed the employee basis there, how you've made absolutely certain that everybody is engaged in a single direction with the business. So first of all, you then.
Me.
Who are you?
Who am I? Good. I ask myself every morning. Right, I qualified in engineering and law.
So you got all the qualifications then for internal comms.
Absolutely none of them. But I fixed that by leaving university and becoming a cartoonist, which was my first role. And after that, 10 years, oil rigs and refineries and mines, working here, there and everywhere, and living nowhere in particular. So really being very much a hands-on engineer. I think throughout that time, I knew on the inside I needed, communications was what I wanted to do. And so I was voluntary writing for the Howard Hughes Foundation and for Lonely Planet, because I was travelling to so many odd places. And it gave a very, very different horizon on all the things I was doing. And it must have been 1998, I think I was working in Alabama. And somebody came up to me and said, "You ain't like the other engineers, are you, boy?" and I moved over to the marketing department. And since then, been stepping on and on. Briefly, the editor of Pipeline magazine. And from there, my step into Luvata, which...
It's interesting because the progress that you had there, do you think a lot of people fall into comms as a role? You obviously had a passion or a love for writing.
Absolutely.
So is that important, do you think, as a criteria? If somebody is watching this right now and they're thinking to themselves, I quite fancy working in internal comms, I fancy doing that, being the voice piece within the business. Is writing the skill that's needed, or is it an open mind that's needed?
The ability to communicate with people, whether it's and there are different media for doing that. Some people can do it by writing, some by being on stage, some by doing it with video. I was at a theatre group when I was at college, and I would still say today that's the most important skill I ever learned. If I were to pick any of the skills that have made me successful.
Public speaking, communicating?
No, I was acting.
As acting?
Yeah, yes, there was, it was 1984, and it was one of these nuclear holocaust paranoia kind of plays in which God comes into the nuclear fallout shelter and starts everything again. I played Adam.
We were going to say, I'll be whispering in my ear, he must have played God. So that's important. So I suppose to a certain extent in business we've all got a persona that we put on. We have our business persona. And you sometimes wonder the people that you meet when you go to networking events and networking meetings, or other managers that you meet within businesses. They have their working persona. We're all, to a certain extent, taking a role and acting. I suppose by doing it more formally, you're actually better at doing that.
Yes, I think...
It's a bit of a poker face, isn't it?
The ability to talk... Because you're always going to get some point in your career at which you have to convince people of what's going on in your mind, whether it's one or two people or a huge group of people. To do that without feeling nervous or that sense of self-awareness that makes you feel embarrassed, I think that's important, and I think that the acting was very important for that. But you mentioned...
Do you think it's important that people do step away from hiding behind the pen or the email or the marketing campaign, that they do step forward and present themselves publicly? Absolutely,
and I think that's a model for the company as well. We mentioned earlier on about social media putting a big spotlight on your company. In the end, companies will rise and fall on the level of integrity that comes over from the company. Sooner or later, people will see you for who you are. They'll see you for your sense of meaning. People tune in, I think, mostly to the emotional connection with a company. I don't think we're in an era anymore when you can have a false public face. I just don't think that works. I know Bruce Forsyth says, good game. He said, when he leaves his dressing room, and sometimes you see him do it on stage, he does a little jiggle with his feet, and he says, that's when I stop being me and I become Brucey. Do I think that modern CEOs, C-level executives can do that? No, I don't. No, if your heart's in the right place.
Do you think that's one of the problems? That they can't?
I think everyone can. It's just a matter of having the confidence to let your guard down. I've built the team I have at work, a team of whom I'm very proud, all internally sourced. And I said, when I was employing them, skills I can teach you. Do you have the magic? That's it.
They all need that little wiggle, don't they?
That little Brucey.
That little Brucey, and it really
they need
is.
Just that little bit of magic. That it's a fascination with other people. It's a fascination with connecting with people. And I think once you have that, whether you're using Facebook or whether you're using LinkedIn or if you're standing up in front of people or making TV, and you must feel this yourself, the feeling of connecting with other people is what drives you on.
I remember walking onto a studio floor once and thinking, this is... I could feel myself clicking into the presenter mode.
Yeah.
I tell you what, it's a fascinating insight. This, if you are in internal comms and you just want to get a little bit more out of what you're doing for your business, we're going to be looking at Lovato. We're going to be looking at the way that Justin actually worked his way through the role there and what he did, some of the things that he implemented that helped him, and they may well be things that can help you in your organisation as well. So that's all to come on this edition of Business Connections Live. Now, on last week's show, we had a cracking show. It was Steve Mills. Not that I'm saying this week's isn't cracking, but last week's show was absolutely fascinating. Steve Mills, of course, is the prudent marketer, and he came on the program. Now, he's talked in the past about using some of the social media platforms. He talked previously about how to use LinkedIn and how to be more effective on using LinkedIn. Terrific show, something like 8,000 views or thereabouts on the website at the moment. Last week he came in and he was talking about looking at inbound marketing. If you are not doing inbound marketing at the moment, you are maybe perhaps you are missing a trick. A lot of companies can get by out there by setting up their stall and their wares just fly off the shelves because people really do want the product that they've got and they're in the right place at the right time. But what do you do if you've got a great product but nobody knows anything about it? How do you then go about cultivating the people that are out there, your potential customers, your clients? How do you go about cultivating them and bring them into your sales funnel, working them way down the sales funnel with them, and then eventually turning them into people who will purchase your brand or your product? How do you go about doing that? Well, inbound marketing seems to be a way to actually control that. It was a great show last week. If you haven't had an opportunity to watch it, then I suggest you do. But to give you a bit of a taster of what happened on last week's show, here's Steve Mills on Business Connections Live. Now, on today's show, we're looking at inbound marketing, how to build a brand whilst creating trust and loyalty. And my guest on today's show is Steve Mills. He is the prudent marketeer.
How do you improve the performance? If you're going to do this, you're going to invest time, money and effort. We really want to make sure we get the maximum return on investment from that. I think one of the big changes in marketing is being the change from being very sales focused. This idea of inbound marketing where you get people to opt in to your information, and you do that through education. I'd say list building is one of the keys to inbound marketing. You know, what I believe we need to do is to try to engage with people, to educate people, to build those relationships. I've been saying for years, marketing is about getting people to know you, like you, and trust you. I see one of the biggest failures in marketing is actually what I call FTIing.
Let me write that down.
Failing to implement. Simple as that, Steve, you know.
Just do it.
Yeah, just do it. So this is a 5-step process. This is about developing your crowd, the number of people that you've got on your database or that visit your website. From there, what we've got to do is start to convert them. I call it going for a coffee. You know, that's what we literally need to do, you know, to develop that relationship. From there, you've got to get your first date, in other words, your first sale. We've got to start to convert this database and this relationship into a sale. The next step is about turning that into real cash. And lastly, it's about continuity. Getting people to buy from you again and again and again.
Will you marry me?
Yeah, will you marry me? Yeah. Satisfied customers are not good enough. What you need is raving fans, people who will buy from you, they would never go anywhere else, they recommend you to all the people that they know, and they're absolute advocates of you and your business. I think the key is to focus on all 5. I get asked so often, I get asked this question, what is the one thing I should do, Steve?
Well, there isn't a one thing.
No, there's never a one thing. There's only multiple things. I said the one thing is many things. You know, you cannot, one of anything, I think, Steve, is really dangerous in marketing. You know, if you've got one approach, you put all your effort into search engine optimization and Google changes its algorithm. 80% of your business disappears overnight. How do we improve the way we capture information? And you've just shown one great way. Having something that you can give for free on the home page of your website. But I think, again, it's about the multiple step approach. I have a saying that I've said for many years. In marketing, you've got to be outstanding by standing out. So the key is doing something different. I love the saying that Walt Disney once said, apparently, if you want to be successful, look what the masses are doing and then do the opposite. And I think that is so true. A very good friend of mine, Peter Thompson, says that you should keep on following up until they die or buy. If your conversion rate is 40% right now, so you get 100 inquiries and you convert 40 of them, if you could improve that by just 20% to go from 40% to 60%, what that actually means is a 50% growth in your business without spending a penny on marketing. My name's Steve Mills, I'm the Prudent Marketer. I help businesses to market themselves more prudently. I really hope that you take note and action based on those 5 key principles, the 5 C's. If you do, you're going to grow your business. If you need help with this, I'm just putting together a 5-month process based on the 5 C's. So if you want to know more, you can go to my website, which is theprudentmarketer.com, or you can call me on 01256 345 556. I'll be more than happy to have a no obligation conversation about how I might be able to help you to go exponential. Thanks very much for listening.
Fantastic show, incidentally. If you do get an opportunity, do watch it. Steve Mills, the Prudent Marketer. If you want to find out more information about Steve and the different courses that he does as well, you can go to his website. Here it is here, the Prudent Marketing Company. Time to meet the Prudent Marketing Company. All sorts of different stuff. Loads of great giveaways on there. He was talking about this on the program last week, in as much as what he was saying was, you know, give something for people to go away with. Give them the information, sell them the information, because we are now in the information exchange age, and it is a great way of engaging an audience with you on your website. So if you want to find out more details, simply go along to theprudentmarketer.com. It's as straightforward and as simple as that. You're watching Business Connections Live, as always, and it is a great show today. We're talking about internal communications, and my guest on today's show is Justin Rue. He's the Senior VP of Communications at Luvata. We kind of teased at the beginning that we were going to talk a little bit about Luvata.
Right.
Who are they then? Right.
Luvata, one of the oldest, in fact probably the oldest metal manufacturing companies in the world. Our roots go back to 1580. We take pride in saying that we were making things out of metal while the Mona Lisa was still wet. It goes back a bit. But a long history, which I won't go through now. But in 2005, we bought the company as it was then, and it became Luvata. And at that time, it was 65 different business entities doing business in about 40 countries, between 14 and 18 different languages, and a massive diversity of things we made.
Well, I read somewhere that you're always within, it's like the old rat thing, isn't it? You're always within 3 metres of something that Luvata either manufacture or at some stage are in the process of manufacture.
Yeah, we say you can't look any more than 100 metres.
That's 100 metres.
100 metres in the modern world without seeing something Luvata's done.
So they're a huge business that nobody's heard of.
Yeah. And me in charge of communications, that says something damning about how dreadful my work has been.
But if that isn't, but your audience is not Joe Public, is it?
No, it's not.
Your audience is the industry, so that's why we haven't heard of you. But with 65 individual entities that are spread across the world,
yes,
to bring them under, can you seriously have one message for all?
Yes. Yes, you can. But you have to realise that message is going to come out in different flavours. And this goes back to what we said about broadcast. You can't... I think it would be foolish to have a marketing campaign where you said, I'm going to convert this many people into thinking, feeling and doing the way I think and feel and do. That absolutely won't work. And I think that with the communication landscape we see today, people are more and more and more independent and more able to express their own will. Having that mindset that might have worked 50 years ago certainly doesn't work anymore.
But you've got a number of problems there, haven't you? The first problem, you've got cultural,
yes.
So you've got that. Then you've also got the actual technology that you're delivering messages on. So that's going to vary, and different countries will have different preferences and different favourite flavours.
Yeah.
That's not actually easy to say.
Different favourite flavours.
Yeah, but whatever.
Practice
so you've got cultural, you've got technology issues as well. I mean, even looking at culture, you've got language issues. One thing that is said one way in one language, when translated, doesn't work that well in another language. Now, it's really diverse, the issues that you've got. How did you resolve them?
Yes, so we're all over the world. Everywhere from China and Pasir Gudang in Malaysia. We're fairly prominent over in the US.
About how many people?
Throughout Europe. Around 7,000 people.
So it's a sizable size business then. So that's quite large. So 7,000 spread across all those continents.
In 36 factories. And internally we speak 14 languages now we translate into. How do you get... So giving a message in a way that people will pass it on, like I said, you have to realise it's going to come out in 40 different flavours.
Yeah.
And my tactic has always been that I would never tell any particular plant manager how to garden his back garden, but I would tell him what colour his front door ought to be.
Because that's the bit people see.
Because that's the bit people see. And so it's always been about understanding different pockets of people around the company and giving them something they can own, something they tune into. I suppose it helped that Luvata's diversity and all the things we do, all the marvellous inventions everywhere. For me, it's like being a kiddie in a sweet shop. And I hope that enthusiasm has been infectious. That's the one thing that combined everybody, that everybody had this passion for doing great things, for making tomorrow better than today through doing some engineering. And by connecting with people on that basis, I'd say, here's the next message, here's the direction the company's going into. I know you're aligned with me on a fundamental level, so take that message and put it out to your people the way they want it best.
But was that where you started? Was that wasn't your baseline when you started, was it? It was a little bit different. So you got 65 businesses, you bring them all together, and you did some research, didn't you?
We did.
And that research, that must have been a bit of a shock, I would imagine, for the managerial team when they saw the perception that their employees had of the business that they worked in.
Yeah, we came out of the starting blocks, I think, the 8 of us in the executive team thinking, okay, business as usual. We've all come from different backgrounds. We've got enough IQ points between us that we can sort something out here. Here we go.
You've got a graph here. Should we just talk our way through that? Yeah, let's have a look at this. So this is your 2009. So the companies have all come together, the staff survey, mid-recession, low figures for faith and knowledge of the strategy. So it wasn't great, was it, at the very beginning? 40% don't know and don't believe. 12% don't know but believe. And then the 6%, I'm sure they're still working for the business, know but don't believe. And still only, under half of your workforce know and believe. That was a tough place to be starting from.
That year was a shocker. So we'd been going 3 years. We had introduced the company culture. That had worked well. We had rebranded everything. Everyone was saying Luvata as opposed to their former company names. Then we hit the recession. And just before that, the price of copper, at the time we were buying 400,000 tonnes of copper a year, had quintupled. So it was a sticky, scary time. Then we hit the recession. Inevitably, there'd been some layoffs, and then we surveyed the staff. And that's what we got. And we looked at that, and it was a very sobering morning when we looked at those figures. And we realised we had a new challenge. How are we going to get the remaining people in the company back on board and motivated to take the company forward?
Do you think, regardless of size of business, regardless of who they are, that if many business owners like you, if you're a business owner right now and you were doing a survey of your staff, the results would be similar? Just remind ourselves, let's look at that slide again. But do you think that is pretty typical of most businesses anyway, that you're going to get that kind of profile? If you're a large multinational corporate, that really is probably what you got. A number of those people are there because they just want the wage at the end of the day.
Yes, I believe that there are businesses around that are like that even today. Yes.
Okay, so where did you go after that? What was the next thing that you actually did?
Well, so we started asking questions about why it's like that. And it would have been easy to go down the broadcast route then and say, they don't know the strategy, they've got no faith, let's just say it more and say it louder. Which a lot of businesses do. Absolutely. Let's print it on some T-shirts, make some new coffee mugs, send people around some stress balls with the strategy written on them. That'll do, and then we can get back to business. Absolutely not. We had to delve further into what people were thinking. And we found the biggest theme that came up was disconnection.
Now, what do you mean by that? Is it that they didn't care or they didn't feel ownership in the business that they were working for?
It was disconnection in many ways. The first thing, we're 72% blue-collar workers. They felt disconnection with the strategy, where the company was going. They felt disconnection from each other. That, we'd been giving this message of big united company, but there was still silo-based thinking. Somebody who worked in the States said, I'm still working in the States. So they felt disconnected from each other around the world, disconnected from the strategy, and most of all, disconnected from the end result of what they were doing. We were making Coca-Cola's drinks machines so much more ozone friendly, it was unbelievable. We were doing things with textile zippers. We were doing things with fruit refrigeration, mobile refrigeration. Wonderful stories. We were behind the Large Hadron Collider, and nobody at the shop floor level was feeling that they were making a difference to that. So we had disconnection with end result, disconnection with peers, disconnection with the strategy. And we had to take the time to go out and find what that problem was. Not to run at the problem and say, they're disconnected, let's just tell them some more.
And do you think, in your mind's eye, from experiences that you have had in industry, that a lot of businesses will see that disconnect and think, get the T-shirts out, we've got to change things. That's the way it's approached.
Absolutely. And I think that attitude's very prevalent. I think you see it in some companies' social media strategy as well. They think this is just another channel down which I can screen the same old things. Where really what you're doing is finding a cause, a reason to be. I'm talking the social media thing now. You're finding a cause, a reason to be that will unite people, whether they agree or not, and then owning that conversation and showing that you absolutely mean it. That is the key to engaging people now. And I think what scares people off a lot about social media, and we'll come to talk about our internal social media in a minute, people get scared of hearing people disagree with them.
And they also get scared, I think, of perhaps the potential of the truth being aired publicly.
Absolutely.
And you don't want that to be happening, do you?
Yes, you do.
What's the old expression? 90% of everything that you hear on the grapevine is true.
Yeah.
And I suppose if you're working for a large multinational. Now, top line, the process that you came up with was called?
Well, I called it cloud busting.
Cloud busting.
Yeah.
And we're going to look at the way cloud busting was introduced to Levata, and also we're going to go through some of the processes, and we're then also going to look at the results too of what came out of that cloud busting when it was actually implemented. As always, you know, it's a really good place to be if you are involved with internal comms within your organisation. If you are thinking to yourself, well, am I just going to get the T-shirts out again? Another time, am I just going to get the stress balls out, I like it, with the slogan printed on? That is not the way forward. You need to be thinking a little bit more outside of the box. Internal comms isn't just about, as Justin's been saying, it isn't just about broadcasting. What it's about understanding who your audience is, and it's about engaging your audience to make absolutely certain that they get what the whole thing's about. Make them part of it. That's still to come on this edition of Business Connections Live. Now, if you are watching the programme for the first time, it's great to have your company as always. We are live every Monday at midday. And if you have any comments, you can always tweet us during the show at BCL Business TV. If you're sitting there and you're thinking, do you know what, this is a really engaging way. Here we've got an expert from a particular industry, a senior VP of a communications of a company that has a proper full-size internal comms team. He's sitting with us and we're talking about it. It's engaging content. Now, say you want to get the message about your business out in exactly the same way, but maybe you're sending out newsletters, tweets, emails. Well, why don't you engage your audience in a different way? This is the future. People now are watching more and more TV. In fact, if somebody goes to a website and there is some video on there, they will sit there and they will engage with that website more effectively than if it was just text. So what about turning your website, your business, into a more engaging entity? You can, and you can do it with a brand that we call Your Brand TV. You can have a program just like this one with customized graphics. You can have your own guests in there, you can have your own workforce in here, and the program can be very quickly put together and produced, and it can be on your website or sent out to specific individuals in your team. Also, we've got an app as well that you can have on a smartphone, so you can deliver it with a password to your work colleagues. They put in their password that you've already given it to them, and they can see it on their smartphone. It's a great way of getting the content out there, both audio and video. As I said, we call it Your Brand TV. Still sending out conventional newsletters to customers?
Do you just want a more engaging way to talk to your customers and employees?
Hello, I'm Steve Hyland.
And I'm Linda Bazant of Business Connections Live.
Your Brand TV is a completely branded television show that can be streamed live or delivered on demand to your niche audience. Be the first in your market to capitalise on the online media gold rush that is using online video to effectively deliver news, information and education to key personnel and clients.
Video attracts 2 to 3 times as many monthly visitors. It doubles their time spent on your site and has a 150% increase in organic traffic from search engines. Large networking organisations are already utilising the power of Your Brand TV to market, promote and publicise to their members and groups across the UK.
Your programme will be branded with your corporate colours and logos in your own broadcast quality network studio.
You can choose the format. It can be news or magazine or interview in its look and feel.
You can have live guests on your show, or you can Skype them in.
You can stream the show live or on demand, so it's available for catch-up.
This is a chance to deliver your message in a new, exciting format that will allow your business to cut through the noise and stand out from the crowd and engage your workforce and customers. This is Your Brand TV.
To get more information on this fabulous opportunity to bring to life your corporate communications, contact us today at Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel.
I know that sounds and looks like an absolute blatant plug. It isn't meant to be. I mean, the whole thing is that your brand TV is something that you can truly use in your business. Now, if you'd like more details about that, we've given you the addresses, but we'll give them to you again. If you want to get in touch with us here at the studio, you just simply give us an email to studio@businessconnectionslive.com, or you can give us a call. We love talking to people. If you've got an idea, maybe there's something going through your head at the moment and you're thinking, do you know what, that would really work for my business, but I just need to talk it through with somebody, then you can do that as well. The telephone number is this. It is 01784 256 777. You can speak to myself, Steve Highland, or of course to Linda Bazant as well for that matter. If you want to follow our train of thought, our consciousness in the ether on social media, then you can go to BCL Business TV and you'll get all the latest information and news about what we're doing. Also, do visit the website at businessconnectionslive.com. There's loads of information there that you can download as well for that matter. So really, it's really very useful. There is over 100 hours of business content there. Everything from trade shows all the way through to the individual programs, just like this one, that's there to help you grow and make your business a success. You're watching Business Connections Live, and my guest on today's show is Justin Roos, Senior VP of Communications at Luvata. If you're into internal comms, if that's your function within your business, what should you be thinking about? We've talked about Luvata for the simple reason that that's the one that Justin's been working on for a number of years. When he started in this particular role, they had absolute disengagement. But some would say the kind of pretty much standard engagement with their workforce. Less than 50% of the workforce were engaged with the business at that particular time. Mm-hmm. Came up with a branding kind of policy. It was called cloud busting, a 3-point plan for a familiar global problem. That's the tag you put on it. What does that mean? And let's have a look at the slide as well. Can we have a look at that slide? Okay, we'll come to the slide in just a moment.
Yes, so cloud busting actually came up, I think it was over a cup of coffee, I think. If you picture the surface of what we call planet Luvata, there were plants and individuals dotted all over the surface of the planet. But like all planets, there was a big cloud floating over the surface as well. There it is there.
All right, there we are, yep.
You see, I used to be a cartoonist, you see.
Yeah, you drew this.
I drew that.
Yep.
What did it mean? It meant that the individual plants, one, they were unable to speak to each other. Two, the cloud stopped them from seeing the strategy from what was coming from the exec team and the direction of the company. And like all clouds, it was sucking up a lot of information from the surface and not raining it back down. So what do we have? There's 3 things going wrong. No visibility of the strategy. There is no feedback coming back down to our workers, and our workers can't engage with each other. So we needed to break it. So we came up with a 3-point plan.
All right, so let's have a look. And that's those 3 arrows, isn't it?
That's
so
3
let's
arrows.
Look at the slide once again. And so the first of the 3-point plan was this one.
Yes, and this was the riskiest one. This was internal social media. We gave everybody in the plant access to a PC, whether or not they had an email login or not. Everybody could get to a PC. And we put in an internal social media platform. And on that platform, you could write anything you wanted to write.
Okay.
Up to 150 words. And anybody else could comment on it, and you could do it totally anonymously. And the exec team thought I was crazy.
Right.
They'd say, you must be out of your mind. All sorts of dreadful things are going to come up. And for a short while, people stepped into it tentatively, and then we started seeing some negativity. We started seeing some serious comments about what people thought of direction, what they thought of where the exec team were going. A very small amount were just, were not constructive criticism at all. And people started to look at me and said, look what people are saying. And I said, but this is the good stuff. We've asked people what makes you happy and unhappy, and now they're starting to say it. And the effect of that is you get to see the real issues that are really demotivating people. and you get to see how many other people around the world engage on that topic. And you watch, and you watch, and after a week or so, you'll see 40 or 50 comments clustering around one particular issue. And now you know you've got an engaged audience who really care about something. That's the point at which one of the exec team can join the discussion and say, we now see this, here's our suggestion, what do you think of this suggestion?
So is it about being brave in that particular situation?
Absolutely.
Then? Is it about standing back and going, this is the only way we're going to find this out? Because people will always tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
If you go down to the shop floor and you go, what are the things that are bothering you at the moment? Nothing?
Yeah, tip the hat.
Are you
Bless
happy?
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Everything is fine. Thank you.
Yeah, we needed to find out what was really being felt on the shop floor and bring that to the surface. And the other useful effect of this was that if somebody had a perception of the company that was perhaps incorrect, they were corrected by their peers. Their peers would say to them, no, it's not like that, it's like this. They weren't being corrected by management, which had a hell of a lot more credibility. So we're pulling the big issues up from the shop floor, finding out what they are, and these are the big conversations. It's not, we could take a guess at why people are disengaged, but now it's being confirmed from the shop floor. We had some great results in the survey, now it's being confirmed on a real people level. And at the same time, this platform was also being used for people to swap ideas as well.
Now, was this an open platform that anybody could see? Could people outside the business, was this something like Yammy or something like that?
No, we made it internally. We made it ourselves. So it's entirely internal.
So a proper social media platform
Indoors.
Inside that only the employees could be involved with, and that's how you used it. So okay, so that's employee to employee.
Yeah.
So that's step one.
Step one.
So step two then was, I can see now the arrows are pointing up.
We're now
They're
breaking
going
the
through
cloud.
the cloud.
We're breaking the clouds now. Yeah.
So step two now.
Well, now we've got the advantage that 100% of our employees have access to PCs.
Right.
When we started, it was less than half of that. We turned the intranet, we took it away from being a library and made the intranet into a place you'd go to swap ideas. We started putting more local plant content on there. People came there by choice. And we put a function in there, ask the exec. And any question you like, it comes up to the exec, we'll answer it in a week. And
is that a bit like going back to the shop floor a wee bit, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And some of the questions, somebody wrote in once and said, should I marry my girlfriend? That's what they asked the exec.
Go on, what did he say?
Well, we wondered why. He said, because I'm an old-fashioned guy and I want to be able to support her and give her a great future and a lovely house, and I want to know the company's got some future.
See, now all of a sudden it's that that next bit that's important. Should I marry my girlfriend?
Yeah.
Asking the chief exec of a business, that's a gag.
Yeah.
Add the next paragraph to it. Am I going to be in work in 12 months' time? Am I, is the business going to grow? Have I got a future here? That's what's so serious about this.
And I think that you said about the skill of being a communicator, it's feeling the real issue. Often people will say something or ask something and you think, what's the actual issue? So we were taking those questions, we were either answering them on the intranet, or we have internal TV, Luvata Television, and we were putting those questions to the exec on our monthly chat show. So that was the next thing. That was giving clarity and access between the strategy and the people. Then the third one.
And the third one that we can see here, where we've got all the arrows actually taking place this time between the individuals. So just look at that. So cloud busting, a 3-point plan, and just wait for it to come up. It should be there. No, we can't see that just for the moment. But
we're waiting for that to pop up. Yeah. So the last big problem, what do we do when we speak 14 different languages in-house? How do we make it personal? And people were saying they wanted to hear the news face-to-face. They wanted to hear it from their manager. And so we had to find a common language that fitted all of our plants. And there is one. It's not English. It's television. It's like television news broadcasting. It's the weather symbols. Everybody sees those.
Now, this is a clever idea. You've told me about this. I really like that. If I do suggest that you listen up for a moment on this and actually listen to what you're about to say.
People wanted to know where the markets were going and where the future for their plant was. And we needed to give like I said, to engage with people in different areas, give them a package of information that they can use for themselves. And so we broke down our markets and where the company was going in terms of weather symbols. So now any plant manager, before he goes out to see his people, could take one look at it and say, right, the automotive industry for America is going to start this quarter looking generally pretty cloudy, but we're going to see some sunny outbreaks towards the end of the quarter, while it's going to be sunny right over in the east for the whole quarter. And everybody could get that at a glance. And so we started translating all of that important information into simple symbology. And we took the performance of all our plants, we made it into a sports league table. Everybody could get this at a glance. And so all those middle management who were in the cloud, who didn't feel empowered or equipped or trusted to pass on information, suddenly had the information that counted and could give it to the people.
I love the way that you've worked on the complete clarity of it. I think that's what's so clever about it. To actually use the weather symbols as well, what a really very, I mean, it really is, it's a very, very clever way of actually doing it, isn't it, if you're thinking about it. To use weather symbols where we see them on a regular basis, we understand what grey clouds mean, it means it's going to be overcast somewhere. So typically then, what would a typical kind of forecast be? Just give us a bit more of an example.
Well, there was the example I gave then about automotive, or let's say mobile refrigeration in Europe. Would of course depend on what people were buying. If there had been a particular good harvest, perhaps the year before or whatever. And we would say, well, looking at the start of the year, coming out of last year, it's going to carry on being cloudy, and there's going to be a lot of cloudy weather. It's going to be with us until around April. But then, thanks to the increased output of Italian kiwi fruit, for example, around the south of Europe, we're going to see a lot more sunshine, because we're going to see a lot more purchase of our mobile refrigeration. And people could look on the map and say, where am I? Well, I'm in Sweden, we're making industrial cooling. Well, there's 3 new power stations being built, which means that by the middle of the year, all the clouds are going to be blowing away, and you're going to be looking at sunshine for the next 4 months.
Now, I don't know whether we can see, can we see the slide at the moment? There we are now. So we can go through the slide just very quickly. So that kind of shows that we've got a good system now for actually getting the message over to them. Something that is pan language. It's right across. Is that such a word? Pan language. But it means that it's done visually. We've got a system here that we can see on the screen where everybody is communicating with everybody else. The cloud bit. How did you ever get rid of the cloud?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, clouds always reform, and we need to keep refreshing everything. We need to keep refreshing the things we do to keep the managers enthused and motivated by that. There are people who pass this message on. You've got to keep them lit up. To launch the whole thing, we put together the whole plan, which unfolded over about a year, but we had to launch it with one big thing, what I call a hand clap.
Okay, and we'll talk about the hand clap in just a few moments' time, right here on this edition of Business Connections Live. You are watching Business Connections Live. I think we're having a few technical issues. Am I right in thinking that? As always, it's great to have you with us as well today. It is a live stream, as always, from the studios here. We're going to be talking more about cloud busting in just a few moments' time. The Promises campaign is what we're going to be talking about.
Yes, that was my hand clap.
And we're going to whistle our way through that. If you are in internal comms, then maybe it's been a bit of an insight today. Maybe a different technique for you to actually use something that's going to be working a little bit, give a little bit more clarity to it. And sometimes, I mean, I don't know whether you'll agree with this, and maybe we shouldn't be talking about it at this point, but do you think that sometimes that people like yourselves who are internal comms, you think you are talking to you, when in fact the person you're talking to is nobody like you at all?
That is the first commandment of communications. The first commandment is, I look sternly into camera, the first commandment of communications is this.
Yes, go on.
Is this. Know your target audience and know them backwards. I don't mean just where they go shopping or how old they are, I mean know how they're feeling.
Hold that thought, because you're going to do it again in just a moment. Okie dokie then. So where do you get the information that you need for your business? Who are the people that you talk to? Where do you go? How do you ask the question? Where do you get that information from? That's the question. Hopefully, Ian Dixon will tell us where. Or not, as the case may be.
Business Connections Live, over 100 shows, I think, just coming up. So
Coming up, not far away.
My God, over 100 hours of business content. Where else would you get it? So an amazing back catalogue.
There you go. That's where you get your information from. Over 100 hours of great content for you on Business Connections Live. Now, you are watching Business Connections Live. Great to have you with us, and thank you very much for tuning in today. My guest on today's show is Justin Roux, Senior VP of Communications at Luvata. We've been talking about cloud busting up until now, if you've been following the programme. But, OK, we've had our 3 processes. We've done our weather maps and everything like that. We've made the voice that we use. We've given that voice a little bit of clarity. People right across, regardless of their backgrounds, regardless of their culture, they can understand generally that if it's grey skies ahead, then that's bad. If it's sun shines out, then that's going to be good. It's presented in the form of a weather map. But to kick it all off, to get cloud busting working, there's got to be a start point at some stage. What were the promises that you made to your team?
Yep, the promises with the hand clap, the thing that made everybody wake up. What we did, I asked the CEO to get rid of words like mission statement and strategy and what have you, and just tell me 3 promises. Where are you taking the company this year? He gave those promises, and the 3 division heads then said, because he's promised that, I promised this, this and this. And then we showed that in every plant, and we got the plant manager to say to all his people, because the CEO has promised that, and our division head has promised that, I promise this. And with an oily handprint, he put his promises on a piece of photocopier paper.
And there it is, that oily handprint.
The oily handprint.
We can see the oily handprint. You saw it just a moment ago, but there it was. So that wasn't just a piece of graphic art there or anything like that. Absolutely. That was the oily handprint from
one of the plant managers.
I love that. What a great idea. And that was the promise, the kick start that you actually did.
And that's what woke everybody up, was everybody was united to hear their own plant manager say, here's my 3 promises that are relevant to our strategy. Oily handprint. It was the biggest, probably the most noticeable thing I've ever done, and it cost 40 sheets of photocopier paper. And it suddenly made everybody realise there's a change happening.
But it's the practicalities of what you're doing here, isn't it? You are making comms. You're taking comms off the page, aren't you? You're making comms just a little bit different. It just is slightly more engaging. It feels a little bit, dare I say this in inverted commas, more real, what you're doing.
I think so.
It feels like it has something that is tangible as opposed to just words.
Absolutely. Stop making things out of paper and make them out of modelling clay.
You were saying just a moment ago as well about the audience that you were talking to. What your golden rule, once again, is what? And this time you can, if you'd like to, straight down camera number 1. Your golden rule is?
Rule number 1, the first of the 3 communication commandments, is know your audience, know them backwards, and remember they're not you.
There we go. Right. Now, you did all that.
Yes, we did it. What was the result?
And then you had the 2010 staff survey. Now, remembering what it was like before, and this is the results. Now, when we think back, we had, well, the know and believe, which was the bit that we thought was okay-ish, 42% previously, now up to 55%. Don't know and don't believe. I mean, the difference is quite phenomenal, actually, here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's what we see there is a big transition from the don't know and don't believe. That's the people who are completely switched off. And seeing that is almost entirely a shift up to know and believe.
Let's go back to that slide again. You can see it there, can't you? Don't know, don't believe, 28%.
So they were both around 40%. The red square and the blue square were both around 40%. So the migration was literally from red to blue. The small figures either side, you've got 11% there who don't know but believe. That's people who have blind faith in your company. I mean, they're great to have, but nice to inform them. And then there are people who know but don't believe in it, are people who still need extra clarity and extra motivation brought to them. But in that first year, in 1 year, we achieved that. And it was about, like you say, going a bit more naked with what we were saying and taking the time to think about what is really demotivating people here. What is really demotivating them? And it was those lack of connections. That was a result for that. I think the next slide, this one I really love, because the weather symbols had been given to our local managers. So our local managers were now passing on the information to their people. You can see on this one in the green square, people are going to their managers for information. And so the trust in their immediate manager went up 240%. And that was, that was an incredibly moving thing.
And also, I mean, down in the bottom corner there, the low communication awareness down to 19%. I mean, that within the realms of any form of survey, there's going to be error in there, of course. But I mean, even still, you are always going to find people who you cannot communicate with.
Absolutely.
Who are there, they just want to see their pay packet at the end of the month, and they don't really care what goes on in between.
Yep.
So to actually change it to those kind of percentages.
Well, those were plants that didn't feel empowered. You would get, and everybody will recognise this, managers who said, here's the latest thing from HQ, I've been told to tell you this, put it on the notice board. But why don't you have staff engagement meetings? Well, because I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do them. I've got a plant to run. I've got some sales to get. I'll go and do something else. Now we gave them something that could help management connect with their people at a local level. And suddenly they felt empowered. They felt trusted. And so you see, where plants were having no structured internal meetings, now they're given something, not a piece of paper, but some modelling clay, a modelling clay message that they can make their own. They want to do it. And so you see that figure come down.
Let's just one more look at that at the slide again, if we can. And you can see there. I mean, that must have been a huge feeling of pride and justification in what you'd actually done to come back with those kind of figures and those kind of results. That's 2010, 5 years ago. So what have you done since then?
More of the same. We've had, the platforms we've created have evolved. Luvata Television that I mentioned has stepped forward. We're inviting employees now to make some of their own films with their own mobile phones, and we compile them at headquarters. That's a lovely thing to do. The Wall has been through many eras of different subjects coming up, and they've always driven the way the executive team thinks. So it's been an evolution of the things we put in place there, and I would. So many companies try to communicate in a million different ways, and if something doesn't work, come up with a new invention. The second commandment of communications is...
Oh, yes.
Know what you want.
Are you going to remember to say all these at the end of the show?
Better.
Yeah. Okay, right, okay.
I preach this. Know what you want your audience to go away thinking, feeling and doing, and what you'll do with that response. And if you've got that firmly in your head, if you do a particular campaign and it doesn't work, change it a little bit, heading towards the same target, because you've established what that target was. And keep heading towards that. And one way or another, you'll nudge your whole strategy in the right direction.
Do you know, it's very interesting you say that, because I don't know whether you've done any marketing or anything. Maybe you've done some marketing on Amazon at all. And a lot of the evangelists that work on Amazon and say, look, here's how you can grow a 5-figure income, blah, 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 by using Amazon. What they do say is that even though you put your sales page up, even though you put your marketing page up to sell your product, each and every day, change it to see if you can make it better. And I think that's the thing that's important, isn't it? It is about making it better. Just because you've come up with a campaign doesn't mean it's going to be all right. You've got to step back from it and go,
moving content.
Where can I improve it? How can I make it better?
Moving content makes you look real, makes you look human. A quote that I love using is, the world is now drowning in information, but thirsting for a meaning. Moving content and daring to express opinions and have your opinions challenged on where your company is going makes you real, makes you a storyteller, and stories are a lot more sticky and infectious than a straightforward company mantra printed on a t-shirt.
Sell the story, sell the sizzle. Listen, I'm going to ask you to give us our takeaways from today's show, if you would be so kind. So this is where you do your mantras. This is where you do your the individual ones that you feel are important for anybody in internal comms to take a note and to listen and to maybe apply to their own workforce and their own job as well. Straight down camera number one, please do remind us who you are, where you're from, and then the airwaves are all yours. Take it away.
Hello, camera one. My name's Justin Rue. I'm the Senior Vice President of Communications at Luvata Group. And my advice, particularly to B2B, but B2C as well, first piece of advice, obey the 3 commandments of communications in everything you do. 1, know your target audience and remember they're not you. Number 2, have firmly in your mind what you want people to go away thinking, feeling and doing, and what you'll do with that reaction. And the last one is, finally, choose your channel. Don't do that first, don't do the creative bit first. Finally, choose your channel and say to yourself, how am I going to measure success? Because in the end, people relate to people, and the whole social media revolution has taken us to a world now that is people and opinion focused. Transparency is everything. There's no hiding anything anymore. And so come across with integrity. Have a reason to be. Don't be afraid of people having opinions that perhaps disagree with your own. Own the issue, not people's opinions. What else would I say? I always think that the message that comes outside of a company is an overflow of what's on the inside. And especially, this is especially true in B2B, because sooner or later you will engage with people, they'll see your website, they'll see your advertising, and they will say, I want to deal with that company. The next thing they're going to do is deal with a human being. And if you're in B2B, that's going to go on for a few months. That human being has got to carry that message on. So make your external message an overflow of what's on the inside. If you just have a glossy message on the outside, it's like gift wrapping an empty box. And anyone who's got kids will know how unpopular that will make you at Christmas. Don't gift wrap an empty box. Above all, in communication, you need to be able to change. The strategies I use now are totally different to what I would have used 10 years ago. We used to talk about above the line, below the line marketing. I think that's smudged now. I think it's about relating to people's opinions and being aware that you can't hide anything anymore. People always say to me, half of my spend on advertising, I don't know where it goes. I know half of it works. It's an old adage, everyone uses it. It was 1880, I think the head of Woolworths said that. The world has changed so much since then. And to be a communicator, be prepared to change. And the best thing of all, make everybody else into communicators too. Because it's a social media era and they'll carry your company forward. That'd be about it.
I'll tell you what, a nice, short and to the point one. And that's what we like about the show. I hope you've got some valuable insight into maybe what you should be doing with your internal comms, or maybe at least you're on the starting blocks and it's giving you a different perspective of where you should be looking when it comes to getting your internal comms sorted out. Start talking to your employees, but use every tool that is available out there. And as Justin said, don't forget, the people you're talking to aren't you. They are different. Each and every one of them. So choose the appropriate medium that's going to be appropriate for your audience. This has been absolute fascinating insight today. Thank you very much indeed.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
It's been really good, and I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Business Connections Live. Now, coming up on future editions of the program, well, what we've got Steve Nichols, innovative mobile apps for business. We're going to be looking at in the next week or so. In fact, that's on next week's programme. And here are just some of the programs that you can look forward to over the next couple of weeks. We've got Benjamin Dennehy. He's a Sadler trainer. So if you're into sales, he also does motivational speaking as well. But if you want to find out more about how to use the Sadler technique when it comes to your sales, then you can listen to Benjamin. Great guy, a bit of a joker. Bit of fun, bit of energy, bit of life. I think you're really going to enjoy the show. Vanessa Lanham Day on Facebook advertising. A lot of smaller businesses, small SMEs, people like that are now using Facebook to actually get to their end user, to get to their potential customer. Facebook, great way of doing it because you can niche advertise. Unlike when you're doing pay-per-click where you're going everywhere and spending a fortune, with Facebook, also YouTube for that matter, but with Facebook you can niche right down. You can actually target who you want to be talking to. Vanessa's going to be explaining some of the things that you need to be considering when it comes to doing your Facebook advertising. Royal Bank of Scotland, RBS, are going to be coming in with their website called BizCrowd. If you're not familiar with that, do check it out after the programme. You'll find a link below this particular show to BizCrowd. BizCrowd is a free online business forum portal. Loads of information there. You can share business, you can advertise for free on it. It's a great place to be part of, and you don't have to be a customer of RBS to capitalise on it and to use it as well. So that's RBS BizCrowd, the free online business community for SMEs. And also John Davies from Just Cashflow and Suzanne Christie or Chisty from FinTech Circle on the upcoming FinTech Tours London event on the 19th to 20th of November. They're going to be with us as well on the programme. Blimey, there's a lot coming up in the next couple of weeks, so make certain you don't miss a single programme. Don't forget, you can advertise on the show. If you want to be a sponsor of the programme, you can do that too. And can I just say hi to all our audience who are watching on Cambridge TV. Thank you very much indeed. The response that we've had coming back from that has been fabulous, and we're looking forward to expanding the service to other local TV channels. That really does wrap it up. It's been one of those shows. I know my producer today, Gordon, is sitting there going, thank God that's over. The ride is over. Thank you very much for keeping your elbows in all the way through the ride. We'll do it all again next Monday at 12. Justin, thank you very much for being part of the show.
Pleasure.
It's been brilliant. Till then, bye for now. Bye-bye.